In this video, we are going to start positioning the floor, get that in the right spot, and maybe start putting a few tack welds in to hold it in where it needs to go. So just to have a look around what I've done so far, since I've got it now sitting on axle stands, that'll allow me to start getting the body into the right position. So it's going to twist from one end to the other. There will be some movement in there, so it's not going to shift. It's pretty much just like twisting on this axis like that way, and at the front end can twist that way too. So I'm not concerned about the only thing I'm concerned about is getting the level. If you look at the spirit level there, I don't know how well you can see that bubble, but getting the position from left to right correct and level is what I'm trying to achieve, to make sure the floor sits in nice and straight. The level up here as well, up on the dash or the windscreen, so that's nice and level. And this one there is pretty good too. The other thing I've done, I have also cut down these the lower section which was rusted for these new inserts to go. When they get fitted, the floor has to get put in first. Now I'll just switch on the light so you can see. And the reason for that, if you look down that corner down there, you won't get the floor in if that is welded to the sidewall already. So the floor's got to go in, and then I can butt weld those pieces on. I can probably still use those clips. The issue is when I take out that clip, if you've never seen what they look like before, that's what they look like. So this bottom bar here will fall inside that triangle, but of course the end, this end will still be open. Where is it? Over here somewhere. It'll still be open, so obviously I can just slide. I've got somewhere up in the tools there, I've got a long stick which has a magnet on the end, so that will get that little piece out. So that's not a major drama. But using those clips will get the panel nice and flat. So what I need to do next is reinsert the floor, do another test fit, and see how it fits with now that the actual body is nice and level. And the way I levelled it, I sort of just put bits of scrap metal underneath these axle stands just to make sure everything is level. So the way it will flex is that if I grab this corner here, I could sort of lift up that corner and it will cause it to flex a bit. So how it's sitting now is nice and level. Making sure the floor itself, this is like this garage floor, it's level, but there will be some spots where they're not level. What needs to be level are things like the top of the pannier, and just double check everything, make sure it's all symmetrically level. The actual axle stands, I've got two different brands, but that's irrelevant. It's the same brand on the back and then the other brand on the front. And the actual vehicle itself slopes backwards, but that's not relevant in order to get the actual body, the twist in the body to the correct position. Alright, so what I'll do now is I will disconnect that black panel from down the bottom there, and then I will do another test fit. And if it's fine, the actual floor can just stay in there, and I can probably get a few tack welds on it and then get those side strips in. The other issue is because these edge pieces have been cut down so much, you'll notice on the floor, if you have a look at the actual floor, and I mentioned this in one of the previous videos, the top of this part on the floor, the edge bit that is vertical, kind of meets sort of where that join is on there. It's sort of slightly above, but that's not a huge drama because I can actually put something underneath to pull the edges of the floor sort of out more, so they're not anywhere near this joint when I'm doing the butt weld on that joint. Okay, so what I'm working on at the moment are the seatbelt support panels. So the way it works, you've got a bolt, a nut which is welded onto this backing plate. That gets spot welded or plug welded onto the rail, and then that sort of is where the seatbelt will mount onto. So what I need to do first is drill holes in this panel. I'm just going to do 4, and then that way that this can be plug welded onto there before this panel is fitted in the car. So that's what the plan will be. So what I've done, I've marked that, and the way I've done it, I will end up with 4 welds on each side. That'll hopefully secure it. So I've marked that. I have centre punched them, and I just need to drill them into this panel. Okay, so all of those holes are drilled, and I've made the holes bigger with a 5mm drill bit. I just want to quickly demonstrate something. So if you get a multimeter, just set that onto ohms to measure resistance, and what I actually want to do here is sometimes these panels come with a paint which is able to be welded directly through, so weld-proof primer. In this case here, this paint doesn't conduct electricity, so if it doesn't conduct electricity, it is not weld-proof or weld-through primer. So in this case here, I'm just testing it to make sure. So 0 means there's 0 resistance, and with the weld-proof primer I have will work. So it just depends. There's a few scratches on here, so I'll just give that a quick coat of weld-through primer before that gets placed on there, and then plug welded. All right, the other thing you can see on here, I've put this masking tape on this panel, because those spots are where normally on this panel there's like a little ridge or opening to allow air and moisture to get in and out from behind the triangle shape behind this panel. I'm most likely not going to actually bother putting those the crimps in there, partly because I probably don't have the equipment to do it, and I don't think I can get them nice, neat and even. And I've also read on the forums where some people suggest that they're not a good idea, because you don't want moisture and water getting into that. So for example, if it rains, and then water's going to get in there. So that's one reason not to put them in there. All right, so let's have a look at this. So that's the inside. So this plate is going to be welded on that side of it there. What I need to do first is I'll just put the bolt in just to make sure it's centered and in the right spot. This doesn't need to be super tight, just hand tight will do. And then just make sure on this side here it's sort of sitting near enough level. It doesn't have to be spot on perfect. Okay, because the purpose of this, because that paint isn't weld through, can't weld through it, I need to just mark where the plug welds are going to go, and then that way I can use a bit of sandpaper to sand those sections, just to prepare the metal to make the weld work a lot better. Okay, so where the pencil is, that's where it needs to be sanded over. Okay, those parts have had a bit of a coat of this zinc weld-through primer, so I'm going to let that dry. But the next step will be I need to mark out and drill holes along the bottom of each of these parts for the spot welds or plug welds that attach it to the actual floor. So that needs to be done next before they're ready to be fitted. So I'll do that off camera because you don't need to see me drilling. I don't know how many holes it's going to be. One option was to buy the flange punch tool, the air punch, but for the amount of holes I need to drill on this project, I don't think it was an economical investment, because it's, for a good one, it's around $200. So I've decided just to drill, because it's not a huge amount, it's just these two, and of course on the actual floor panel itself there will be some more as well, but there's not a huge amount, so some at each end of the floor panel. Okay, so where we are at today, we're sort of at the stage where I just need to straighten the black side panels, get them in the right spot. I'm starting to install the clips on there. So if you have a look, you'll see. The way I'm doing that, because the floor actually, the edge of the floor does get in the way a bit, but if I just try and get a light in here, you'll see what I'm able to do. Alright, so if you can sort of see that, so the actual clip itself, the floor sort of goes close to where that weld will be, and the inside panel you can sort of see there, obviously it's between those clips, and then if you keep the floor, the upright, away from that when we do the welding, it shouldn't be an issue. It's only an issue at this end. The other end, obviously I can drop the front of the floor, and then the floor won't be in the way of where the actual gap is. So that's what I've just got to do next. Progress update. I'm just double checking, making sure everything is level, as close as what I can get it. What I've done, I've just installed those panel clips on both sides now, just so they are ready to start welding in. So that'll be the next thing. I'll just show you, and I mentioned this just on the previous clip, you can sort of see how those clips, there's plenty of room for them to sit in there without the floor panel getting in the way. And then of course down towards the other end, the back part of the clip sort of sits in between the floor and, like, so I didn't really need to jam all screwdrivers in there to make everything stay together. Obviously I haven't put any clamps near the back section here, because then that floor will move a little bit when the other end of it lifts up, only a fraction, so that's why I've just left that for now, so there's room for adjustment. And then the distance away from the wall will obviously change. So the main point is to actually just get the panels fixed to the side walls. Okay, so I've got some welds, tack welds on those two side panels now. I've removed the clips, and what I need to do now is just get the floor, bring up this end of the floor up, and then just see how everything fits. Okay, a few hours later, I've got the floor in the right position now. I actually put the subframe back in, because you need the mounts at the bottom to sort them out. So the subframe's bolted in, and I've got the toe board just held in with those clamps at the moment. What else? I'll put some bolts underneath here, so that it's pretty much on there. There's a bit of a gap, but hammer that down, that'll be fine. That all lines up. Bit of a gap here. That's not a major issue, because that flap can just fold down onto there. The floor on both sides sits level now with those side pieces, so that's pretty good. And now at the back I'll just put a few screws to hold that down, to keep that into place. This back corner still needs to be tacked in, obviously, but that we'll do later. So the next job is just to sort out the holes for the actual subframe, and then getting these bits in the right position too. Okay, so what I've done so far now is started to work out where these holes need to be drilled through the toe board for the to mount onto the subframe. So if you can remember from one of the earlier videos, I said, oh, these things are in the wrong spot, but they're smack on perfect in the correct spot, those indentations. And then again, you can easily see the bolt or the hole below it, where when I was messing around before, I thought, oh, you'd have to get a ring spanner and an angle and try and get it in there, but it's going to be very easy to do. I just need to work out what size bolts should be used for the subframe, because I've got a stack load left over from the Mini, and do some test fitting, a whole heap in here. So something like that size, but I'll just double check it all. Okay, so we've finally reached the stage where the floor is now welded in. The next thing I need to do is just clean up the edges, grind them down. There's still a few little bits that need another bit of weld here and there, and also the front section with the closing panels. I need to fix up that still. But I'll leave it there for this episode, and thank you for watching.